Okay, hello everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Heartfulness Wellness webinar series. My name is Kalpana, and I have some amazing speakers, and we are going to talk about sustainable future, innovation for a greener planet. And I think the conversation around the environment and climate change and the earth is a conversation that's never going to stop, because as we know, and as three of you I'm sure may agree, that the rate at which the earth's health is deteriorating is only increasing as time goes. And thus I think we should never ever stop talking about how to save our planet, essentially, and that no matter how tiny our contribution is, it still matters. So we are going to have an open-ended conversation on that. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our renowned speakers, and I'm so excited to get started. So I'd like to start by introducing Dr. Ramakanta. So Dr. V. Ramakanta was a member of the Indian Forest Service and has superannuated as the Principal Chief Conservator of Forests. He is an academician, author, and an internationally acclaimed wildlife photographer. He has had the experience of managing few of the ecologically important species-rich ecosystems of India. Post his superannuation, he moved to Kanha Shantivanam and has been one of the key members of the greening team currently holding the post of chairman of the Forests by Heartfulness initiative. And I am so glad to be conversing with you, Dr. Ramakant. Even in our personal interactions, Dr. Ramakant is someone that brings so much life into his work and so much passion. And I'm so excited to have a one-on-one conversation with you, with all of us here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you. And it's a pleasure interacting with you, young people.
Okay, and the second speaker I'd love to introduce is Dr. Ananya Rao. All right, so Dr. Ananya Rao has a PhD from the Center of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, India. She has had the privilege of working with pioneers of climate change research in India and has studied the terrestrial carbon cycle over the Indian region. She has published research articles in peer-reviewed journals and has had the honor of being invited for talks, including a TEDx talk and discussions at various reputed institutes in India and abroad. Having been a witness to shrinking forest ecosystems across the nation and the blatant effects of climate change on the life of people from all walks of life, she is doing her part to help alleviate the situation in any way possible. She has worked with the UNESCO MGIEP for 2 years and is a senior scientist with Forests by Heartfulness, the greening initiative of the Heartfulness Institute. Welcome, Dr. Ananya. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Feeling good, much better than yesterday. I had a vertigo attack, but today back to normal, almost normal. But yeah, glad to be here to be a part of this conversation. Thank you for the introduction, Kalpana.
Of course, and we're so excited to have you on board too. And last but not least, I'd love to introduce our last speaker, again, last but not least, Mr. Ankur Shah. Ankur is a geospatial data scientist who works on utilizing satellite data for mapping environmental issues such as deforestation and climate hazards like wildfires, drought, floods, and extreme temperatures. He is a student of biomimicry at Arizona State University, where he is learning how to innovate using lessons from nature. He is also the director of operations at Mycelium, an Alabama-based nonprofit promoting open source solutions for accelerating the circular economy. He holds degrees in physics and earth sciences and creates educational YouTube videos on environmental issues and solutions. His hobbies include playing ping pong, hiking, reading, and foraging. Welcome, Ankur Shah, to the platform. We are so excited to have conversations with all three of you. How are you doing, Ankur?
Feeling good, super excited to be here,
Yeah.
and thank you for the kind words. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, we're going to dive right into the conversation. I wanted to pick your brain, Dr. Ramakant, first on understanding how we can kind of carry forward ancient wisdom that comes in from traditions and how can we adapt that to our contemporary world. So my first question to you, Dr. Ramakant, would be, how can traditional ecological knowledge contribute to contemporary environmental solutions?
As I'm the first speaker, if it is okay with you, I will speak about the general, the triple planetary crisis of climate change,
Absolutely.
loss of nature and biodiversity, pollution and waste, and things like that.
Yes.
I get to talk to people who are experts in the field. I get to read, and it's almost like you more you learn about it, more you seem to lose hope. But there are areas where you say no. Indomitable spirit of human beings. It should never be beaten by this. It is a reality. What do we do? How do we do? Becomes very important. I get to learn about this mega green wall, the great green wall of Africa. Oh, something is happening. I should now say with all humility, I'm part of a very small in scale, maybe, but a replicable, sustainable development at Kana Shantivanam. So whatever I shall be speaking today will be based on whatever happened in the last 8 years at Kana Shantivanam and my observations and whatever little I could do that. You talked about old practices, ancient practices, very, very much. See, for a sustainable future, it's very obvious what I'm speaking, but I say rainwater harvesting. It is nothing new. People, we work, I'm now the chairman of Forest by Heartfulness. We have projects at Gujarat, Rajasthan. I go there, there is valves, the steep wells, very old. We had the tradition of harvesting rainwater. In Kana Shantivanam, if you say, I will just go to my presentation.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is something like Kana Shantivanam when we came in 2016. Absolutely, 1,600 acres of land, hardly any plant. Here there is boulders are not seen, otherwise strewn with small and big boulders. And in this landscape, we started many things with unique greening perspectives. I take you back to one of the Upanishads of India, thousands of years old ago. Someone said, Annam Brahmeti Vijijnasava. No food as God. And thousands of years, the simple statement. Of course, everybody knows that food is fundamental to existence of any living being. Why make so big about it? All of us have not understood. It's almost like a formula. We have not understood the essence behind this simple statement, food is God. We produce much more food than the 8+ billion people of today's earth can consume. But we are wasting 1.3 billion tons of food every year. We have not fully developed our ability to share food with others, which the ancient India talks about. One of the fundamental things, if you read the literature from ancient India, grow food, and distribute, share that food generously with other beings. So at Khana Shantivanam, we did a greening with a very different perspective.
Mhm.
I showed you the photographs. It is a semi-arid landscape, almost scanty rainfall, porous soil, hardly much carbon in it, agricultural fallow land, that means lots of nutrients have already got washed away, and temperature goes to unbearable, blazing hot Hyderabad. In this area, we took up a greening activity, which now we can say with authenticity can be a model for many other places in India and elsewhere. Everybody says, you can ask me, stop me, ask me questions if I don't want to be a big monologue, but if I am fine. If you permit me, I say, people say grow trees. What to grow? What species to grow and where? For example, India is a mega biodiversity country, 224 forest types. So what do you grow? What species? Very important. So we grow any food plant, anything that produces food. We say where that comes from doesn't matter. The food that we consume, the birds, the bees, and the butterflies manage to get something out of those plants. What a monkey eats, if you eat, we may die. That's a different thing. So food, food plants we grow.
Yes.
Plants with ecological values, medicinal values, socio-cultural value, educational value, spiritual value. And one value I would like to talk about, intrinsic value.
Yeah.
There is a tree in the border area of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. There were just 200 when someone said 200 only, critically endangered, Hildergardia populifolia. And it is totally useless for human beings. You can burn probably as a fuel wood, hardly much calorific value.
Yeah.
So who is interested? But then there is now accepted in Convention of Biological Diversity, CBD, they said intrinsic value, that species has a right to existence. So we grew such species which are not one, two. Many plants, there is a jamun in Kerala, Syzygium travancoricum, found only less than 100. A mahua, Maduka bordalona, less than 100. A mahua in Karnataka, a species of mahua, flowers edible, fruit edible, seed gives a fat without processing edible, 72 trees left. There is a jamun in Andhra Pradesh, only in Tirupati, Tirumala hills, nowhere else. Species are going extinct. So what we did in Khana Shantivanam, we got all these plants together, managed to grow them, and then I come to this, how ancient wisdom we tapped.
Yeah.
One is, just a little presentation. What have we done this semi-arid landscape? We have vegetation like this now.
Yes.
This is the tree that I was talking about. The stem is very dark green, beautiful. Okay, critically endangered, narrow endemic species. The jamun that we spoke about from Andhra Pradesh. This is the jamun, critically endangered from Kerala. First thing, what we have of a spiritual guide, popularly known as Daji. First thing, water conservation, Blue Khana Initiative. 10 minutes is given to me, can't get into details. This is nothing very new, but has been a part of India. Somehow we lost traditional knowledge. Here, whenever it rained, Daji with his umbrella and with a hat would go and observe where the water flows, the gradient. Now we have ponds, one gets filled, we have elaborate pipe systems, the water goes to another and another and another and another, and after the sixth pond, it goes outside of this thing. Many, shallow waters, ponds, hardly there was any water. We deepened it, elaborate pathways and percolation pits. You find it all across the campuses. Result is, there is one bore well where on a mound of sand we could make a forest. There is a bore well 1,300 feet down below. Okay, now last year it was some 400 plus feet we could get the water, groundwater recharging happened. Another thing, this place is so barren, porous, compacted soil. Many measures were put in place as a soil amendment. This came from Daji. What Daji said, kept on worrying. You pour water, if it rains here today, tomorrow you will not even have a sign of it having rained. Water simply disappears. Porous soil, very hard as well at the same time. He came out with a solution. We dig, to grow a tree, we dig meter cube pit. And we have the black cotton soil, as well as this alluvial, this soil, red soil. 6 inches of cotton soil. That becomes something, held the water. We could grow because of that. Initially, Daji used Politer, a French technology, granules. It absorbs water, swells, and slowly gives water to the plants around the seasons. Now, activated biochar is taking a very important role. Happy to say, the agricultural crop productivity is so high when we use that 41 or so vice chancellors of different agricultural universities came here to say, is it really true? Because no one has done it recently. It was a traditional knowledge of people lived in the forest area of Amazon. It is the traditional knowledge of ancient India. So all our rituals, the pots, Petra, then the biochar was very much part of our agriculture system. Now it is gone out of chemical fertilizers, they're deploying, etc. We introduced this activated biochar. What is this activated biochar? Biochar is coal. From biomass, there are techniques, advanced techniques to make charcoal. This charcoal is treated with Jivamruta, Panchagavya, again traditional knowledge of India. There was a very big person from Europe came. We say cow dung without, it's something wonderful, okay, for us. Cow shit, he was putting his cow shit, horse shit. No, it is very respected thing here in India. It is not something to be despicable. So we use cow urine, cow dung, some proteins, and then Daji took this to a different height. He used jaggery, yogurt, and some bio culture. There is somebody who supplies that, and keep ferment it for 11 days and dilutes it, 1 bucketful of it. We could grow trees on an excavated mound of soil. We call it now phase 1, sand mound biodiversity park. Okay, proudly say it. We did many translocation of trees. It actually lush green. Ancient technique, simply forgot, like we forgot to share our food or not to waste our food. Okay.
Yeah.
We at the same time, people talk about Miyawaki forest. I mean, I should be very careful about what I say. It evolved in Japan. Must be good. But in the name of Miyawaki, if you plant a tree species 1 meter apart, it looks very nice for 5-6 years. It all looks very green and dense. Afterwards, it becomes Hitler's concentration camp because each tree would struggle for sunlight. You give how much of nutrients, how much of water, sunlight becomes a limiting factor. So we evolved a high density forestation technique. We grew rainforest species here. Emergent species give big gap. 180, a tree species which has a potential. Please let me know when I'm finishing my 10. 10
Oh,
minutes.
yeah.
Give me 2 minutes.
We're good. We're good. We're good. I'm
Okay.
engrossed by your
So,
sharing. Thank you so
a
much.
plant species which grows potential to grow 180 feet species, we give them enormous distance between the two. In between grow a tree which has the potential to grow 100 feet. In between grow 50 feet tall. In between grow 20 feet. In between grow 12 feet. So for that you need to know your species. Whether someone goes like a straight like a pillar, someone spreads its branch, what is the girth, what is its requirement. If you know, we can create dense forest, which we have done it. Now, Forest by Heartfulness is replicating it elsewhere. A new methodology we could develop here. And probably this is something the world just doesn't know. We grew rainforests here. And the Aji asked me, we should have a rainforest here. I'm from the Indian Forest Service, and then immediately I said, sir, in this landscape, can't grow. Then he kept quiet. After 4-5 days, he says, we should have an Amazon forest here. I said, sir, that is not possible. Third time he asked me the same question. I said, oh, okay. I didn't believe one plant will survive because most of the species of rainforest, they don't have they never face direct sunlight in their entire life cycle. We brought in truckloads of fragile plants. We grew. I didn't believe that they survived. They're doing very well here. So we used many, what the youngsters like you people say, hacks. One of the hacks is that it needs moisture. So we dug many ponds and we put plastic and had water so that there is some humidity. One of the hacks I'm telling you. Then what happens, as the tree grew, they poked hole into the plastic, water drained out. We have people who work with us from the state of Jharkhand. They said, sir, we have a solution for that. A layer of leaf we removed the plastic, pasted a layer of leaf, and then a paste of black cotton soil, another layer and another layer. Now, 2.5 years, we have a pond without plastic sheet. This is functional. This is the traditional knowledge of India. Many such things, in the name of science. I don't know who to blame it, but actually I know here, I don't want to spell. In the name of science, much of the wonderful past of India we let go for 60, 70 years. Things are changing, though slowly. Translocation of trees. I have Brother Sarvanan works with us. He has developed mastery over it. Trees that were marked for felling in the road widening project or such other projects, we bring it, we make them grow. Last part of it is that we have world community coming here and working as one family. Native species, emphasis on native species, horticulture nursery. They have a nice board. I don't have it here. Love grows here.
Love grows here.
Yeah. Daji says each one teach one to plant one. That's what you are doing by this webinar. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramakant, for
Thank
walking
you.
us through that. There were a few things that really stood out for me, and I'll be very quick on this because I want to kind of capture the essence of what you shared with us just now. I think the reason I feel like I mean I completely agree with what you said, that in the name of science we're losing out on a lot of crucial indigenous traditional information that's been passed on. And the biggest reason why we need to go back to those types of learnings is because I think back then, from the ancient time, we've just in general been more in touch with the earth and more in sync with what the earth needs, what we need from the earth. And I think over time we've gradually become distant from it as a civilization, which is why we need to have conversations like this in the first place on climate change, on the environment, on Mother Earth. So that's one. And also, the last thing is the first thing that you mentioned about how sometimes it's easy for us to lose hope on seeing a brighter future for the earth. But at the same time, you do need to have gusto and grit and belief that things can change. I think I see rays of that belief coming in when people like you are so passionate about what you do, all three of you. And I think that is what kind of keeps up the hope that there can be a better future, even though it might seem really difficult. I think that hope is something that really lights me up, and I'm sure all of us experience that too. So yeah, it's hard, but I think it's worth believing in the possibility of a better tomorrow. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for walking us through that.
A
I
wise man knows when to shut up. No, now I leave it to you. You
no,
youngsters to talk.
I don't know why you keep doing this. No, I think the story of how Kanha Shantivanam kind of came to be is a testament to how we can use different creative ancient practices to actually create beautiful things, like creating a rainforest on an arid land. That is absolutely surprising. And when I first found out about that, and when you walked us through the story when we first met, that was so astonishing to me. So it's so interesting. And how there was a part where you mentioned about the innate intrinsic value and spiritual value of plants. It's almost as though even the concept of the right to existence, it makes it propagates the belief that every plant and species is as valued as human life is. And I kind of want to pass the baton on to Dr. Ananya, because I'd like to pick your brain on how do plants kind of perceive and respond to their environment. And I know you've done some research around that area, and I'd love to know more because, like we said, whether you're a plant or a human, your life matters and you do have the right to existence. So I'd love to know more from you on that.
You have encapsulated it really well by saying that every life matters, and how we are all interconnected. I think that's the essence of things here, and especially after Dr. Ramakant's talk. I mean, it's good to. I mean, there were a few points that I wanted to touch upon and bring it into the question that you have asked me right now. One part, especially about why are we talking about plants? I mean, we are talking about innovations for the future, and then you've brought in a question about the plants, and Ramakant has already talked about how plants are so important, and there are so many ancient innovations that help us with growing these plants. But why are we focusing on plants in the first place? I mean, of course, we all know that they do take up carbon dioxide and give us oxygen. They give us our food. Again, as mentioned by one very important point that he mentioned about how we waste food, and how important plants are in our day-to-day lives. We all know all of this, but I think to get a whole picture of things, of how things work, as you rightly mentioned, the interconnectedness needs to be felt. It is very important for us to understand the uniqueness of these beings that inhabit the planet with us for a much longer time span as well than the human beings have existed. And especially important in this era, the Anthropocene, to talk about the plants, because we are losing them. As Dr. Ramakanta mentioned, we are in an era of mass extinction of species. But how many of us understand what this means? Mass extinction of species is happening right now in these times, and that means that we are pushing one species to the brink of extinction every 3 hours. Every 3 hours, one species is towards extinction, never to be seen again on the face of this planet. And all of us are, very aware. The media talks so much about animal species like tigers, Asian elephants, the rhinoceros, the dwindling populations of the penguins, the panda, the red panda. All of them, we know that they are endangered. They are in danger of not being seen ever again. But we hardly have anybody talking about plant species, which are also disappearing along with. And the reason, one main reason why these animals are disappearing are also because the plants are disappearing. The plants that they depend on are going away because of deforestation, the main reason. The second main reason is deforestation and habitat loss being one. The second reason being introduction of non-native species. And that's why the mention of native species in the Heartfulness Greening Initiative for us by Heartfulness. So introduction of non-native invasives have been another main cause for these plant species to go away. So, but okay, coming back to your question as to why, what do these plants do for us? They, one, I'm going to respond to this in multiple ways because there's so much to cover. I don't know, if I'll be doing justice to the question at all, if I don't mention at least on top, at the surface, some of the points. One, of course, major thing is this, that the every species matters. So I love to quote this very, very great ecologist who's still alive, Paul Ehrlich. Dr. Paul Ehrlich, who has this theory about rivets. He says that each species is like a rivet on a flying aeroplane. And if one rivet falls, nothing may happen. If a species of, say, a vessel in a remote island goes away forever from the face of the planet, it's not going to affect your life or my life right now. But another day, another species goes, and the third day, another species goes. And like this, a rivet keeps falling from this flying aeroplane of this earth. And we never know when the last rivet is going to fall and the entire plane crashes. So we are in that state right now, and it is high time we learn to respect the other species, which are less talked about, less prominent, and make sure that they get the respect and the kind of conservation that is required for them to survive. Why? For our own survival. The life supporting part of the plants is understood. The interconnectedness with other beings is now being understood by science. I mean, science is making all efforts to see and understand. Again, it's always been there. Traditionally, we all know, intrinsically, we all know, even born in this era. I mean, of course, you're also Dr. Ramakanta from this era, but what I mean to say is that if, born right now, even if a child knows not to hurt a plant, a child knows not to trample on tiny saplings, because you feel it from inside. You feel the connect from inside. There is a constant interaction that happens when you're with the trees. You sit under a tree, and here I would like to mention an activity that Taji suggests, where you sit with a tree whose girth, whose diameter is less than your back, the width of your back. Sit with it with a thought of, let this interaction be mutually beneficial. Sit with that thought and see how your energies change. So I have tried it when I have been sick, even this vertigo I need to try now. But then when I have had fever, I've gone and sat with the tree, and just this thought, and you close your eyes and sit for 3 minutes, you feel the energy whooshing into you, like how they take out the carbon dioxide, give you oxygen. They do the same with your negative energy, and they give you a lot of positive energy. So you will definitely feel positive, relaxed, calm when you're sitting under a tree. So the science has tried a lot to put these feelings into more concrete readings of how the body changes, how the energy levels change, how the electromagnetic fields, how the electric signals from the plants help us human beings. And it has now definitely now there is concrete evidence that plants interact with everything around them, including other plants, the soil, and of course other beings like us. Yeah, so it's I mean, I'll just end this with how important the communication also is. When they are communicating within themselves, within the plant kingdom, they are communicating, they're talking about how to be more pest resilient, how to be disease resilient. One part of the forest, if there is a disease that outbreak that happens, the communication happens, and by the time the disease is coming to the other parts, they develop resistance. So this is very important for our agricultural systems, So this understanding this becomes so much more important for us, for our food as well. And then the communication that happens with the soil network as well is so important. Yes, so I'm gonna stop right now. I know, Kalpana, you wanted to ask something in between.
This is so I had a lot of questions, but I'm not going to. This is going to get way too intense. But before I go, I mean, Uncle, would you like to add anything, any thoughts you have to this conversation on this topic?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love what both of you have said. And one dimension I'd like to add on is that of biomimicry. So, when we think about how to respect other species, what if we looked at species as teachers? Human beings, if we condense the lifespan of the planet into a clock of 24 hours, human beings are less than a minute old, and the Industrial Revolution began less than a second ago. So we think we are the most intelligent species, and are above other species. But in fact, termites can control temperatures in their nests around 30 degrees Celsius, despite the land surface temperature around them being 45 degrees Celsius. They do that with amazing ventilation without any fossil fuels. There is a beetle in the desert of Namibia, the darkling beetle, that can filter water in the morning when the fog comes in a desert and drink water with its pores and bumps on its back. Lotus, that's perfected the art of self-cleaning. So when rain falls on the lotus, it cleans itself. And then this has inspired many paints to clean. Sorry, do you hear the dog in the background? So biomimicry is this art of recognizing that nature has evolved much longer than we have as a species, and there is intelligence and wisdom in species that we are not aware of. So we need to learn from nature. We need to see species as our teachers, and I think it's a way to build respect, but also innovate. And I can talk more about that later. Yeah, and I know that
I will
question.
come to you soon. I have a lot more questions around that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that stood out for me from your sharing, Dr. Ananya, was how, like what Ankur also shared, how big we think we are. But when you spoke about the intercommunication that happens in forests between different kinds of plants and how that could be crucial even for agricultural pursuits, it makes it so it's a very profound thing to hear, that we are not all that. We're just because we have intelligence, just because we have critical skills, that doesn't make us any more worthy. But it's sad that a lot of plants do go endangered and go extinct because they don't have any form of expression to kind of express their pain. And I'm sure science is already behind that. Can plants experience pain, etc.? But I'm sure they're probably doing that. But it's very sad to see. So thank you so much.
Can I add something?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
please.
just the last bit that you mentioned, that they don't have a voice, which is true, of course, but like you rightly said, there are different ways that the plants also try to put the message across, you know. I mean, I have seen this after coming here. Honestly speaking, I was not this observant before I started the meditation practice, and also did not, even with the meditation practice, I don't think I would have been as observant as I am. But I have had the privilege of being in this lovely space, Kana Shantivana, for 3 years, and that's where I learned a lot. I mean, beyond what academia could give me, I've learned a lot here on ground. And I would see Daji walking around this space, and he would talk to them like he would like how we perceive other human beings. You know, his perception of these trees and plants are just like that, and he talks to them like that. Why is this guy so sad? This is what he says. Why is this guy suffering? You know, and I'm like straining to see who, what, where, okay, what is he talking about? But then he would be referring to a tree that has its leaves not up and you know, moving in the wind, but then, you know, a little down and droopy, and that he knows that, okay, there's something wrong with the tree, something is missing, some nutrient is missing maybe. And then of course there is like decoloration, colors change, and drying of leaves. But that, apart from the you know, visible markers, if we pay attention, I think trees communicate in terms of vibrations as well, you know, of like telling that, okay, something is not right with me or with the environment or with the soil. You just have to pay attention, I feel, to perceive these things.
That's
I think
beautiful.
he wants to add something, Dr.
Oh,
Ramakant.
yes.
You have to
Yes, ma'am.
unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just want to say science validates it that plants are sentient beings. You may elaborate on that if there is time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I did have one more question for you, Dr. Ananya, because now we're looking at, okay, this kind of communication is possible. What do you think are the potential benefits that could arise from integrating understanding plant consciousness into environmental and conservation efforts? Mix up the words there, but yeah.
I get it. Yeah. So as Dr. Ramakant said that,
Yeah.
yes, science now validates that plants are sentient beings. This is a huge step forward by science, I would say, to give the plants the status that they deserve, of course, but not like the plants are applauding there and saying, "Yay, we have the status now of being sentient beings." But it is more for us as a species to recognize the vitality of these beings. And I always like this. The Lord of the Rings has, you know, those ancient trees. They walk around giving wisdom to the hobbits. And you know, my idea of, when I go to the forest also, I think of them as those lints, if I'm right, lints, right? Those huge trees that talk and walk. You can add in, I mean, I forgot what they are, LENTS, lints or something. Yeah, anyway, so those walking, talking beings that move very slowly and, you know, give really great wisdom to the ones who are listening, and only the hobbits listen to them, you know, and that's why they get the respect also from the tree. So I think there is a lot to learn, as Mr. Ankur mentioned about the biomimicry part of it. There are teachers, yes, there are teachers in so many ways. I mean, we are not even aware of the kind of ways that we can learn from them. You know, it's that minuscule. Our awareness or the knowledge that we have from the plants is so less. There's I came across, of course, fungi, but still relevant in this scenario, that you know, they find the best ways, the best roots. So if you spread across the fungi over a petri dish, they find the best and easiest routes to access the other fungi and the other parts of the petri dish. And this was used as a model for some city building. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That was the slime mold experiment that mimicked the train route in Japan, in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And scientists found that the path that the slime mold took was pretty much almost the same as what they had designed as the efficient train route for Tokyo. and that was mind blowing. But yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
so I mean, I'm not going to delve into that. There's so much biomimicry, but one thing that I have learned being here is there's a particular leaf of a Mecaranga peltata, that's a species which inspired urban waterways. So it has one center point, and there are the waterways kind of mimic the veins of the leaves, and also that particular species has tear glands at the edge of the leaf, which, if there is excess water in the ground, excess water is given out through the tear glands of the leaves. So, which is so cool. Everything is so cool with nature.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah,
And I
but
think all of
sorry.
you are in the field, so you're probably like aware of that. But for me, as an outsider who is not that involved, my mind is like blown.
It's
And this is
even
so
on the
profound.
field, I mean, just being there, it's mind blowing. I'm like, wow, look at the pink color of these leaves. How is it pink? Where's the chlorophyll in these leaves? And the beauty of each flower. I'm like, who designs these? It's just so amazing nature is. But one last thing that I wanted to share was another experience here at Kanha Shantivanam. Around just before the lockdown happened, we had a huge gathering, like around 1 lakh people were here present at the same time. And when that gathering happened, I happened to meet trainers from Brazil, okay, meditation trainers from Brazil, and I've not talked to them after that ever. I mean, like I've not communicated via WhatsApp. Also, they're not on WhatsApp anyway. So these highly sensitive trainers, they showed me some aspect of the plan which was woof, mind blowing. I mean, like one is mind blowing to this extent that this was crazy, because they said that so this person, he just asked me to touch a leaf. Okay, there was a plant next to us in the cafe, and the plant, he said, just touch the leaf of this plant. I touched it, and then he's like, okay, now ask me any question about your past that I would never know. I mean, of course, I'm meeting this person for the first time, so he didn't know much about my past. Okay, so he's like, something personal. Ask me any question, and I will ask the plant for a reply. Okay, it's like, what is he trying to pull here? Okay, and so anyway, I just asked what was my mother's favorite color, or something like that, and he took 3 minutes. He was touching the plant, talking to it. This he explained later, but 3 minutes later, he's like, white. And I was like, what? How did you get that? And like, of course, I asked him so many more after that, so many more questions, just to make sure he wasn't bluffing or it wasn't a fluke. But he explained to me how plants are also storehouses of information. So even if you brush past the plant, so this is the past, but he said that they can store, time is non-linear, firstly. I'm a scientist saying that. So anyway, so the future can also be accessed through these plants if you know to talk to them. So he said that all he did was talk to the plant with a lot of respect, introduce himself and talk about what we were doing, and introduced me and said that, could you please tell me this information about this person? And it came to him as an image. And I know it sounds crazy right now, but you have to be there to believe it. I did it. I reiterated. I mean, like iteration. There were many iterations where I, like touch this tree, touch that plant, and made him do a lot of things, and he was able to do it. And this is the kind of expansion of consciousness that is possible for each one of us. And if we are aware of how much these plants can provide us, it's gonna change the future in ways that we cannot even imagine right now. So when we talk about a greener future, all I can think about is more green, more plants, right? I mean, what do we mean by sustainability anyway? Sustainability is something that can sustain, and the only way I feel that we can sustain is by appreciating the interconnectedness of us with them. And these words mean nothing if we don't experience it ourselves. So the only way to get there is through an expansion of our own consciousness, such that we can experience the consciousness of plants and other beings on this planet, and get the whole picture. Okay, Mother Earth is one single breathing, talking being. Yeah.
Yeah. This was so profound. Thank you so, so much for walking us through this. I have a lot of pointers that I want to take away. And I'm going to start meditating more so I can talk to plants more.
I know, I wish I could get there soon too.
Yeah. Oh man, I also want to piggyback on what Mr. Ankur was talking about, where how you can derive a lot of lessons from nature, and all of the examples that you just quoted off the top of your fingers, Mr. Ankur, was just amazing. So my question to you, Mr. Ankur, would be, in what ways does nature kind of serve as a model for creating sustainable solutions and innovation specifically?
Yeah, great question. So, as I was saying, humans are a young species. We haven't evolved for that long as, say, crocodiles have or sharks have. Even moss and algae and lichens and many fungi have evolved for much longer than we have. And so their intelligence, our definition of intelligence is limited to just IQ. How good are you at math? How good are you at physics? Or how well can you speak English or languages? And that is one form of intelligence, but species have many various types of intelligence, which we are not even aware of completely. And the way many species have solved problems that we humans face, such as water scarcity, producing energy from solar radiation, being insulated, well insulated in cold habitats, without using energy, without using fossil fuels. They've perfected the art of that. And so if we look at our problems in our biomes, for example, Arizona, a state in the US, is very dry, doesn't have as much water, but there's a cactus called the saguaro cactus in Arizona that has ridges on its body. So when there is some rainfall, those ridges expand, so it becomes more cylindrical. And when it dries, it contracts again. So it has the shape shifting mechanism that allows it to store water and release it when needed. Um, I was mentioning how ventilation has been inspired and used by architects using termite mounds. And there is a center in Zimbabwe called the East Gate Center that has reduced its energy use for heating and cooling by about 30 to 40% based on the design of termite mounds. How do termites design their mounds so that they can cool themselves in extreme heat? So nature has answers that we have not yet tapped into, and we are hell-bent on this idea of development and progress, where our very messed up notion of development is building malls where forests used to lie, or building roads and bridges where hundreds of species lived before. And to me, development is an idea where we can live in harmony with nature, we can learn from nature, and not have to destroy ecosystems for our progress. Um, I have so much to say, but yeah, nature is a
Go
model
on.
that we can learn from. And I'd like to go back to an experience which brought me to this place of learning from nature. In 2017, I stayed with a tribe in the Amazon called the Sequoia tribe. This was in Ecuador and Peru even. And this was a very immersive experience where I lived with a tribe without any electricity, without running water. We used headlamps at night. If the batteries went out, it was just okay, find out, walk around, catch someone. So in the Amazon for about 2.5 weeks, I was immersed with a tribe, and I learned that this idea that humans are a virus to the planet is wrong, because for 99% of human history, we've been hunter-gatherers. It's only the last 1 to 2% where we've actually, become settlers, become what's called takers. There's this great book by Daniel Quinn called Ishmael, which divides human history and humans into leavers and takers. Leavers were the one who were hunter-gatherers, and they left and had a reciprocal relationship with nature. They left things and took only what they needed. They didn't have that many material possessions. They didn't need 4 cars and a bungalow and laptops and so much food to store. They only took what they needed and when they needed it. But when the agriculture revolution happened, after that, we became mostly civilization and species of takers, where we just take, extract, mine, exploit, build, develop, cut ecosystems down, make farms, make houses, make cities. And so what's happened is that we've lost our connection with nature. And what I saw in that tribe, the Sequoia tribe in the Amazon, was that a lot of them were growing their food, but also foraging, hunting, and just getting what they needed and when they needed it. And for the most part, their houses were huts. And I'm not saying they shouldn't develop or anything; it's their choice. I can't say that from a privileged point of view, um, but humans are not necessarily a virus. We can become a species that's extremely conscious, like Dr. Ananya and Dr. Ramakant were saying, and learn from our past and integrate it into our modern future. Um, we've had this Western scientific worldview, which relies on Victorian science, British science, and ignores, like Dr. Ramakant was saying, ignores the past, the traditional knowledges of not just India, but even many, many tribes throughout Asia, tribes throughout Africa, throughout South America. Native American cultures in the US were decimated, and they're just getting a renaissance now. So there's so much knowledge from so many cultures that was wiped out, intentionally in many cases. And we've just now realized that the importance of that is super vital. Even in my experience in the Amazon, I realized the importance of learning from indigenous wisdom. We in school we learned that tribes are just Adivasis. Oh, they're primitive, they're backwards. That's what was taught to us. But in fact, they're many in many ways they're forwards because they know what plants to use around them. They know their local ecology super well. They know how to use resources around them in a manner that sustains them for the long term, for generations, not just their kids, but 7 to 8 generations down the line. That's how many Native American cultures think, 7 generations down the line. So we have to learn from these cultures and not just stick to this Western scientific model that's linear and just a very linear mindset that's led to this linear economy, which extracts materials from the earth, makes products, and then we throw it away. Science has led us to a lot of technological advancements, increased lifespans in many countries. We can talk intercontinentally like right now because thanks to science, but in the same time, we need to realize that we need to live with nature because we are nature. I mean, without other species, we won't exist. And this idea of nature separates us from what's around us. Nature separates humans from plants and humans from animals. But we're all, like Dr. Ananya was saying, we're all interconnected. We're all, in a way, a single, part of a single super organism. James Lovelock has this theory of Gaia, where Earth is a giant living being, and we are part of that living being. So we have a lot to learn, and we are still in an infant stage, and we need to get rid of our egos and live ecologically and not egologically.
I love that. Thank you so much for walking us through that, Ankur. I think you're sharing around how, especially the fact that we've taken up 1 to 2% of the timeline when we're looking at how ecological systems how long they've existed in relation to us. There is so much to learn, and I think the pursuit of biomimicry, which is also a very niche area, but so rich with knowledge on how we can drive change and innovation and even technological pursuits with the wisdom of nature, I think it marries both of them very well. And my next question to you, but before I go, that I want to check in with Dr. Ananya and Dr. Ramakant. Do you have anything you want to share after what Mr. Ankur shared?
It was lovely to hear you and hear so many things. Yeah.
I think I said enough.
No?
Maybe some other time.
For the record, we can never get enough of you, Dr. Ramakant. I mean, I'm willing to hear like in
Thank you.
5
Yeah,
hours. I'm great.
Yep.
I'm good. Yeah. Okay. So coming back to what I was saying, that it's about marrying the science we have today with the knowledge that has always existed from ancient times and forever, for so many years. So now, how do you think, and we're going to go into the futuristic element of it. Now we're looking at how tech has kind of developed. Technology is in all shapes and forms have developed. How do you think we can use technologically driven environmental monitoring, and how does that kind of contribute to sustainable development?
Yeah, great question. So another side of my life is doing environmental data science. So I've worked at a program of NASA called Impact before. I worked at a startup until recently called Climate Engine. And there, in both roles, so there are many, many satellites orbiting the Earth, not just looking out into space, but looking inwards to the Earth. And satellite data can have a huge potential in just monitoring environments on a cheap, regular basis and deriving insights that can help us implement climate action, adaptation, mitigation, so forth. One example is satellites have collect on a daily or weekly basis. They collect things like temperature, air temperature, land surface temperature, even vegetation health indices, so the infrared emissions from forests and green cover. We have land cover maps globally now available around 10-meter resolution, which is very high. So all of these things combined, we can derive things like climate hazards. What is the risk to droughts, floods, fires? What is the health of vegetation? How have landscapes changed over time? Whether it's deforestation, mining, biodiversity loss. So we can use so many metrics from satellite data to derive these insights that can help us understand what is going on a city level or ecosystem level, or even to some extent, national level. So satellite data has a huge role in informing what is going on and what can we do about it. But the ultimate action needs to be translating that data into grassroots action, on the ground action. One thing I'd like to mention briefly is this initiative that Dr. Ananya and I are working on now on monitoring the reforestation efforts at Kanha. So through plots, we can show you this on a later call maybe, but we have plots showing how land surface temperatures have decreased over the past 6 years compared to the last 20 years, thanks to the reforestation efforts at Kanha. We have plots showing how the maximum air temperatures have decreased slightly in the past 8 years, thanks to what's going on in Kanha. So this is a model of how satellite data can derive insights and confirm what we think could be true based on the efforts. But it's data. You cannot argue with what the data is showing. And it's powerful to use that and confirm things for funding or even derive insights on what the issues are to solve them.
It's so exciting to see the, like you see the greening happening, the actual plants growing and they're so tall, and then that gets validated with this satellite data. It's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this whole conversation put me in a lot of awe. AWE. There's just so much of wonder that I'm experiencing, and it's just been so lovely interacting with the three of you. And I think, Mr. Ankur, even the way we can use satellite data to look at the state of, floods, for example, from a different part of the country. I think what it also does is it makes the earth seem like a more accessible place. Like, it's not just, oh, how do we fix things in our own country? It's how do we fix things in a world? And to be able to look at the earth from satellite data perspectives, I think it just brings everything much more closer together, and much more of, it creates that sense of urgency that, oh, it's happening in Africa, but I'm able to access all that data right now on my computer. So it does create that deeper sense of responsibility, and almost like we're global citizens, not just a citizen of our own country. So that's something that sparked up to me when I heard you share. Dr. Ramakant, do you have anything you want to add to Ankur's sharing, Mr. Ankur's sharing? Oh, you're on mute.
I have a quick thing to add on
yeah.
that I forgot to mention. But as we move forward, this title of this talk and webinar is Sustainable Future Innovations for a Greener Planet. One of the greatest revolutions that happened in a decentralized manner was the Industrial Revolution. Of course, that's led to the issues we are facing now, whether it's climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss. But if you think about it, Industrial Revolution did a lot of cool things where we went from using a telegram to a portable cell phone within a matter of less than 100 years. And so many other things have happened where a typewriter used to be used for printing, and now we can just print things through the laptop. So my point is that Industrial Revolution was this manner of innovation in which there was no single leader or company. There were many different people doing innovations, and then we ultimately chose what works best for us and what's most convenient. But imagine the ecological version of this Industrial Revolution, where using biomimicry and lessons from nature through conservation of nature as well, and living in harmony, we innovate new products, new chemicals, new machines, new infrastructure that's inspired by nature and doesn't harm nature, in fact, regenerates it. So there is this idea of life positive infrastructure or life positive products where we don't create chemicals or infrastructure that kills life. Instead, it's a habitat or it benefits in some way. And the new ecological revolution can involve this decentralized manner of innovation if we taught so many people around the world in different fields, whether it's business, engineering, chemistry, architecture, how to learn from nature, this framework, so they can apply it in their discipline and then innovate, and we can have this new uh, revolution 2.0, but this time it's ecologically aligned, and it's good for the health of the people and the planet. So I think we need to use our technologies that we have. We don't want to get rid of it, but we want to move in a direction that is live in the direction of a livable planet and not something that we fear for our kids.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ankur. Um, to kind of wrap this whole conversation, I'd like to ask all three of you if there is one thing that is on the top of your heart, top of your mind, something you want everyone to take away, even if it's not a message you want everyone to take away, but just something that's coming up for you in a sentence, what would it be? We can start with Ankur, then move ahead with Dr. Ramakant, and then Dr. Ananya.
My message would be simple. It's go outside, slow down, and observe and learn from nature. Learn anything, whether it's how a bird is singing, how the leaf shape looks like, and be curious. Ask why that is, and just try to learn what nature is teaching and what's right in front of you.
I have one simple thing to tell, that there is much more to human existence than what meets the eye. Please meditate, and you become a better human being, a sensitive human being, a wonderful human being. We all turn into be. That's it.
Okay, I'm going to add on to what both of you just said. Yes, do go outside, do meditate as well, sitting indoors or outside. But along with that, I think it is very important for us to understand that change can happen only when we change ourselves. And that is through both what Ankur and Dr. Ramakanta said, that it has to come by observation, by conscious efforts, and through path of self refinement, that is meditation, heartfulness meditation. Do try heartfulness meditation. And to end it, I mean, like I really like what Ankur said, that innovation is not bad, human beings are not bad, but at the same time, imagine a world where each one of us has transformed and each one of our thoughts have transformed. Daji talks about how the base of all the issues that the planet faces, the triple planetary crisis, the pollution, all of that is the thought pollution. So refining the thought pollution. So not just you meditate, you tell others to also meditate. Tell the big higher ups, the politicians, the ones who make a lot of difference, they tell them to meditate, tell them to, and if you can't tell them through your words again, so it's your thought. Use your thought to get them to change as well. Thoughts are very powerful. So have a thought that the world is changing for the better. Like Dr. Ramakant said, there's still hope, and Ankur as well, that we should go out and reconnect to the wild, and have a positive thought always, that people will change, humans will change, the planet will change. Sorry, long message.
No, it's fine. That was profound. Thank
Can
you
I
so
add a quick note to
Oh,
that?
yeah.
That was
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
awesome. I think one action takeaway, and this is for anyone around the world, find some CEOs of companies or politicians and then invite them for a heartfulness meditation. I think that would do wonders. So thank you, Dr. Ananya. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I think on behalf of the Heartfulness Wellness webinar series, I want to extend so much gratitude to all three of you for having this interaction. And I feel very honored that I got to be a part of it, mostly because I'm in awe right now, like I mentioned before. I think these are things we need to do while we're talking about what's wrong with the earth and what we need to do better. We also need to spend time celebrating the wonder that plants are, that animals and our whole ecosystems hold. So I think today's conversation just brought a lot of joy. And I love how all three of us were just almost like, blown in certain respects and, taken away by each other's words. I think those are the points of these conversations, to just spread hope and joy and positivity wherever we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thank
joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
We hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you,
this
Ankulji.
conversation.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kalpana ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Kalpana, really. Yeah.
Thank you,
Dr.
Kalpana.
Anna.
Wonderful
Thank
morning.
you, Mr.
Thank you.